Hello. In the modern age, we usually view smartphones as a vulnerability. It tracks your location, logs your data, and bleeds your privacy. It's a piece of fragile, expensive glass that shatters if you drop it on the sidewalk. But sometimes, the exact physical architecture of that device becomes an ultimate physical failsafe. Sometimes, a densely packed brick of lithium and circuitry is the only thing standing between you and a bullet. Today, we're looking at the unintentional armor of the digital age. 4 documented moments when the hardware in your pocket acted as a bulletproof vest. We start in the early hours of October 28, 2013, a Hess gas station in Winter Garden, Florida. A clerk is working the graveyard shift. A Florida man wearing a high visibility traffic vest walks in, draws a low caliber revolver, and demands cash from the safe. The clerk scrambles to open the safe. When the clerk and his coworker physically cannot get the safe open, the robbery falls apart. The gunman panics, turns to flee, and fires a single parting shot directly at the clerk's chest. The clerk felt like he was hit by Thor's hammer. The adrenaline hits. The clerk feels a sharp pain in his chest. But to his own shock, he doesn't collapse. He stays on his feet. He seizes the opportunity and calls 911. When the paramedics arrive to examine the clerk, he realizes the terrifying reality of what just happened. He had been shot at point-blank range, but there was no exit wound. There wasn't even an entry wound. The clerk reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out his smartphone. The bullet was lodged completely inside the chassis of the device. He walked away without a single scratch.
When an armed robber fired a gun right at his chest, the bullet getting lodged in the case.
The clerk wasn't carrying a paper-thin device. He was carrying an HTC Evo 3D. In 2013, the Evo 3D was an absolute brick of a phone. It was specifically engineered to run a glasses-free 3D display, which meant it required dual camera sensors. It weighed a hefty 170 grams and was over 12 millimeters thick. When the low-caliber revolver round struck the clerk, it hit a layered wall. They had to punch through Corning Gorilla Glass. Corning Gorilla Glass is a brand of specialized chemically strengthened glass developed and manufactured by Corning Incorporated. It is designed to be thin, light, and damage resistant, making it the industry standard for mobile device displays, laptops, and wearables. The strength of the Gorilla Glass comes from a process called ion exchange. The glass is placed in a molten alkaline potassium salt bath at approximately 400 degrees Celsius, or 752 Fahrenheit. Smaller sodium ions leave the glass, and larger potassium ions from the salt bath replace them. Because these larger ions take up more space, they create a state of high residual compressive stress on the glass surface, making it significantly harder to crack or scratch. Corning Incorporated is one of the world's oldest and most successful material science innovators. Founded in 1851 and headquartered in Corning, New York. The combined internals of the phone absorbed the force, bleeding off the velocity of the bullet before it could touch the clerk. The exact design requirements that made the phone so exceptionally bulky and heavy are exactly what turned it into a small shield. Our next 2 incidents take us to Brazil. Because of the incredible similarities in how they ended, the internet often mashes these 2 events together, but they are distinct cases of survival, separated by years and 2 very different pieces of hardware. The first happened in May 2014, on a beautiful day in the municipality of Araraquara in the state of Sao Paulo. An off-duty military police officer was heading to his parents' house to drop off his uniforms to be washed, just like any other day. But when he walked through the front door, he stepped directly into an active hostage situation. Two armed men had broken in and were robbing his parents. I swear, living in some places in Brazil is like living in a Liam Neeson movie. The moment the intruders saw the police uniform in his hands, they opened fire. As the officer turned to retreat and take cover, a bullet struck him squarely in the lower back. He survived because the round hit the back pocket of his jeans and embedded itself entirely inside his Nokia Lumia 520. The criminals fled the scene with stolen jewelry and cash, completely unaware that their fatal shot had been absorbed by a budget smartphone. Years later, in October 2021, history repeated itself in the rural outskirts of Petrolina, Brazil. During an attempted daylight mugging, an unnamed civilian was shot at point-blank range in the hip. He was rushed to the university hospital, where doctors braced for a massive trauma intervention. Instead, the attending physician, Dr. Pedro Carvalho, discovered the patient only had a minor bruise. The bullet had struck the man's Motorola Moto G5. In a fitting twist that proves that the universe is the ultimate comedian, the phone was wrapped in a cheap, plastic Incredible Hulk case. The doctor posted pictures of the shattered phone on Twitter, noting that the patient was treated and discharged just minutes after arriving. To understand how two budget, entry-level smartphones managed to catch live ammunition, you have to look at the manufacturing trends of their respective eras. The off-duty police officer in 2014 was carrying a Nokia Lumia 520. At the time, Nokia had a legendary reputation for building indestructible phones. The Lumia didn't use a thin black case or a thin glass back. It was encased in a thick, shock-absorbing polycarbonate shell. Polycarbonate is a high-impact thermoplastic, the exact same base chemical family used to make bulletproof glass. By 2021, the civilian in Petrolina was carrying a Moto G5. Motorola had moved away from plastic and instead opted for an aluminum backplate to give their budget phone a premium feel. The metal chassis acted as a ballistic plate, flattening the bullet and absorbing the kinetic energy before it could penetrate his hip. On the night of October 1st, 2017, the Las Vegas Strip became the site of the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. 22,000 people were attending the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival when a gunman named Stephen Paddock opened fire from a 32nd floor suite at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. It was terrifying and chaotic. High-velocity rifle fire raining down on an open-air parking lot. Panic erupted as thousands of concertgoers desperately fled the scene, vaulting over fences and running towards the safety of the main strip. In the chaos, an unnamed woman managed to flag down a local Las Vegas taxi. As she climbed into the back of the cab, physically unharmed but deeply in shock, she looked down at the rose gold iPhone in her hand. The bottom half of the device was completely obliterated. A bullet, fired from the sniper's nest above, had struck her. But instead of entering her body, it slammed directly into the bottom rear chassis of her phone. Her taxi driver took a photo of the shattered device and shared it with the local news. A chilling, tangible piece of evidence showing exactly how close she came to losing her life.
Belongs to a woman. He was driving away from the scene of the shooting. The phone was shattered by a bullet during the attack, but the woman was miraculously not hit.
There would be no trial for the shooter. As SWAT teams finally breached the hotel suite, Paddock took his own life, escaping justice and leaving behind a mystery regarding his motives that's still debated today. Based on the timeline and the rose gold finish, the device was an iPhone 7 Plus. A few years prior, Apple had faced a massive public relations nightmare, known as the Bendgate.
Apple stock took a hit yesterday in the wake of Bendgate. iPhone 6 Plus customers complained their phones bent when they were left in their pockets.
Where earlier models of their phones were physically bending in people's pockets. To fix this, Apple completely overhauled their manufacturing process. They upgraded the chassis of the iPhone 7 series to aerospace-grade 7000 series aluminum alloy, the exact same high-strength material used in the aerospace industry to build commercial aircraft. The specific alloy is primarily zinc-based and is significantly stronger than the 6000 series, which is magnesium and silicon-based. It's one of the highest strength aluminum alloys available, often used in aerospace and high-end cycling for its ability to withstand high stress without deforming. It was a great marketing strategy. But it wasn't just the aluminum that saved her. When the bullet struck the bottom of the phone, it had to punch through the aerospace-grade chassis, force its way through the dense lithium-ion battery pack, and smash through the circuit board. That tightly packed sandwich of metal, battery, and glass acted as an armor plate, stopping the bullet just millimeters before it could exit the screen. Our final story takes us out of civilian life and directly into the theater of war. April 2022, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is in its second month. In an undisclosed frontline trench, an unnamed Ukrainian soldier is taking cover while heavy artillery and automatic gunfire echo relentlessly in the background. Amidst the chaos, the soldier reaches into his tactical vest and pulls out his smartphone. Wedged deep into the shattered back panel, completely trapped in the hardware, is a 7.62mm bullet. The 7.62 Soviet is a high-velocity rifle round, standard issue for Russian AK-47 variants. In a viral video captured by a fellow squad mate, the soldier holds up the destroyed phone and the military dog tag that was sitting behind it. He looks at the camera and says, "The only thing that saved my life was a phone and a dog tag I was given."
Сидіти. Єдине, що спасло мою жизнь, це телефон за 20 тисяч. І жетон, який мені видали.
Ось ось жетончик, їбать. Через ксіву, перельоти такі пішли, слава Богу.
І ці гандонів не так, як нас 5.45, а 7.62, блядь.
Плюс. Оп. То це одних.
Вона щас БК нести буде.
Я
Now
прекращаю.
let's remember here, this is military grade ammunition. Judging from the distinct camera module seen in the footage, the device was a Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. A direct, unobstructed shot from an AK-47 would obliterate any piece of consumer electronics. But war zones are chaotic environments, filled with debris, shrapnel, ricochets. Military analysts that reviewed the footage concluded that the bullet had likely punched through a physical barrier, like a sandbag, a tree, or a trench wall, bleeding off a massive amount of its initial velocity before it struck the soldier. But even a decelerated 7.62 round is lethal. This is where the Samsung hardware became the final line of defense. The Galaxy S21 FE was an absolute brick. It was built with a rigid aluminum frame, Corning Gorilla Glass, and a thick polycarbonate back panel. As the decelerated bullet hit his vest, it was forced to crush through that aluminum chassis and bury itself into the dense internal battery pack. The phone died instantly, but its destruction served a purpose. The tight, dense stacking of the lithium core and the aluminum frame absorbed the impact. It caught the Russian rifle round just millimeters before tragedy. Do me a favor, hit the like button. A piece of consumer tech designed to connect you to the world became the only reason you were still in it. Stay safe and stay salty.